Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of exciting things. I never say exciting things with microphones because I am a ring announcer and cage announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I often am, by my two co-hosts, both of whom bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first, I'm going to go to the Florida guy first. Florida man, because the man in New York is chewing. Oh, he's done chewing. Introducing first, in New York, he is Mark Priaulx.
So close.
Bud? So close.
Chooch ass opening to the show. Be professional, will you? Yeah, we're starting late for us, so I'm not gonna say shit. Let's fucking get into the show.
And late for us is real late.
Yeah,
because we always start pretty late.
Early for us is still late, so this is quite late.
And introducing in Florida, the Sunshine State, we got a condo in Florida. Omar Artola, what's up, buddy?
Definitely have a house in Florida, not a condo. Just FYI, just so you know.
He's got a condo in Jupiter. Sorry,
I don't know. Where is this from? What is this reference?
It just sounds like my grandmother.
That's rough. That's rough.
Seinfeld reference for a second.
I thought it was a movie, maybe. I wasn't sure. Yeah, doing good. By the way, can confirm when you land your foot on somebody's knee, hurts a lot. And then when you do it twice, it hurts even more. So try not to do it. Fun fact of the day.
Dude, I've never trained any kind of Muay Thai or combat sport at all. A friend invited me once. This is like, 12 years ago. A friend invited me to go to a cardio kickboxing class, and I went. And there's like minimum like training of like how to appropriately throw a kick. But we go to these like speed rounds where we're like kickboxing these heavy bags. And I kicked this fucking bag this one time as the bag was moving. And I kicked the bag with like the wrong part of my foot. I thought I broke my foot. I was like, that shit's broken. It's broken.
That's, to be honest, that's kind of how I feel right now in both of my feet, like the top of my feet. But I know they're not broken because if they were, they'd be swollen to shit. So they're somewhere between really fucked up and broken. So I'll take it. It's fine.
Well, gentlemen, I coming off the heels of my very first fight, or my very first event, rather, in Las Vegas, bit of a career milestone for me. Very cool for a promotion called Lion Fight. I did their 75th show, what they called their Diamond Anniversary show out in Las Vegas. So that was some cool stuff. Got to announce Steve Walker defended his Lion Fight World Super Cruiserweight Championship against a very game Australian. It was a very close fight. I believe it went to a split decision, and I thought it could have gone either way, man. Either way, but I was happy that Steve won because I got to know him a little bit over the weekend. He's such a great guy, and happy that he retained his belt. And it sounds like he's at the end of his contract with Lion Fight, and we'll see where he goes next. Anyhow,
how did it feel being in Vegas? Like, were you soaking it in and getting comfortable for all the future times you're going to be there working for the UFC?
There were certain things that I liked about Vegas. Like it definitely feels like a fun town, but it feels like a fun town for the rich. Like if you felt comfortable, like spending $300 on every meal, it would be like the best time of your life. Everything is very expensive in Vegas. A coffee is way more than you think it would be. A bottle of water is way more than you think it should be.
For the exact reason that you just said. It's that they know whoever's there went there assuming they were going to spend money while they were there. So they're like, we can hike this shit up.
Exactly. But it definitely is a interesting and a pretty cool energy to the place. It's also like a little weird.
Was that your first time in Vegas?
My first time ever in Vegas.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Holy shit, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. And you guys have both been to Vegas?
Bro, I've been to Vegas multiple times. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Wait,
wife and I like.
What's that?
Get out of the house once in a while, will you?
Just go to Vegas, casual.
I've seen a few fights now, I think, at this point in Vegas. Conor and Khabib obviously was the biggest one that I went to. The most expensive price tag that I've ever paid for a fight, probably ever will ever feel comfortable paying for a fight. And the wife likes the shows out there. So we've gone at least 3 or 4 times since we've been together.
Yeah, the guy who sung the national anthem is like the lead in one of the big shows out in Vegas, so that was really cool. He was great. When you step off the plane, not even into the terminal, like at the gates.
Oh yeah, you're assaulted.
Is a casino. It is a casino.
Your senses
The airport.
Yes.
The airport is a casino, and not only that, the casino feels like an airport. Like there's a Hudson News. There's like the Dunkin' Donuts. So it's a little bit disorienting because like everywhere feels like the same. Like you're kind of trapped in this big casino theme park.
Yeah,
but
I get that.
Hey, shout out to Virgin Hotels. My room was fucking dope, and they upgraded me for no reason, which was really cool.
Wow, that's cool.
To a mini suite.
Virgin is dope.
Yeah, it was really nice, and the fights were great. Only 7 bouts. There were originally 8, but we lost. The Jessie J fight got dropped because her opponent did not get medically cleared for reasons that I cannot disclose on this show because it's none of my business. But that sucked. She still came and she was really cool. They said that Valentina Shevchenko was supposed to be there and was supposed to do a little bit of color commentary, but she did not show up either because she apparently had hand surgery that day.
Tracks.
From punching Mike Bell, probably.
Yeah. I will find you, Mike Bell. That's my Valentina. I'm better at these impressions when I'm not on the show. I swear, man. I'm in the car. My impressions are spot on.
That you sing really well in the shower too.
Yeah, right. Last one, because I know we got to move on. I got to meet Shannon the Cannon Briggs and I had quite a few conversations with him. He was such a great guy. And for those who don't know or who need the memory jogged, he is the Let's Go Champ guy. Yes. And he said that a lot. He says it a lot. Like it's his hat said it. He had a baseball cap that said "Let's Go Champ," and he was like there the whole weekend. Like he came to the weigh-ins, and at the weigh-ins, when people were like getting on the scale, he was like, "Let's go, champ!" As I was like announcing their weights, that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I was like, "So who are you here for?" He's like, "Nobody. I'm just here." I was like, "It seemed like you knew certain fighters." He's like, "Nah."
Is he still big?
He is a giant. He's a mountain of a man.
Like I know he's like whatever he is, 6'4" or 5.
Yeah.
But like I didn't know if he was still like a big, muscular dude.
Jacked.
He's a mountain. He's a mountain. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, his media assault against the Klitschko brother will forever remain a memory for me because it's some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
So that was my weekend. I was there for what felt like 4-ish days, and it was cool.
That's awesome.
We did it. We're back.
Good for you, dude. Moving on up.
Thanks, bro.
Add another to the resume.
Let's talk enough about Muay Thai. Let's talk MMA. This is not and new Muay Thai. It's and new MMA. You think there's a podcast like in Thailand called like and new Thai boxing?
Could be and new Nak Muay.
We have a bit to talk about this week, kind of a atypical show for us. Not as much to preview for you guys, but we're gonna talk about a number of the fights from this past weekend's Bellator 299, Eblen versus Edwards. We're gonna then jump over to the UFC side of things with our recapping of UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot. We're going to throw a few of these fights into our lightning round. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's rankings. Then we're going to turn to the news and headlines with our segment Inside the MMA Sphere with Omar. And then we're going to look ahead to a couple of fights this coming weekend. We have PFL action, PFL 3 Europe of their 2023 playoffs, and a little bit of action at One Fight Night 14, which I love what One does, that they, on any single card, they jump around to different combat sports from MMA to Muay Thai to grappling and back and forth. So we're going to preview 2 big fights from this one fight night. And then we might end with a little bit of trivia for you gentlemen. Bringing the pain this week.
I like it.
Cool. Well, before we get into any fight talk, guys, let's first talk to our audience. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, hey, thank you so much. We love each and every one of you guys, especially those who have been with us from the beginning. If you're watching this right now, do us a big favor. Hit the thumbs up. It's easy for you to do, but it helps us out so much. If you've been watching a few of our videos and clips and you've been liking what you've been seeing, please consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss a video. Hit the bell so that you get notified if you can't get enough of us. That's cool too. Scratch the and new MMA itch. If you like any of our takes, please let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes, we want to hear your take down in the comments below. We always respond, and by we, I mean Mark, mostly, always responds to the comments. We love having that thoughtful MMA chit-chat down in the comment section. If you want audio only, we got you covered there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us on social. All the places at @andnew_MMA show. All right, enough. Let's go. It's late. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Johnny Eblen, who this past weekend at Bellator 299 at the 3 Arena in Dublin, Ireland, defeated Fabian Edwards by knockout. The official time coming 21 seconds of the 3rd round. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of this fight and of Eblen's performance defending his Bellator middleweight strap.
Yeah, this was a good one. And it was honestly a really competitive fight right up until basically the point where Johnny Eblen found those big shots that finished it. I mean, Fabian Edwards showed a lot here. I've said it before. I never really got on board with Fabian Edwards. I expected he'd lose to Mousasi. I got that wrong. Obviously, he beat Mousasi. I expected he would get not handled here, but that Eblen would be the clearly better fighter. And I guess you could say he was, but in terms of up until the finish, they were pretty damn even. So Fabian Edwards has got me respecting his game more than I was previously. He was not afraid to pressure Eblen in this fight, despite the obvious threat of the takedown. He was walking him down. He was working his kicks. He was doing damage in the clinch. He had a lot of nice elbows in the clinch. And most impressively of all, he stuffed every takedown that Johnny went for, other than one where he hit the mat for about a second and he popped right back up. So I was really impressed by the takedown D from Fabian Edwards. I didn't know that he had reached that level with his takedown D. You know, it wasn't that long ago we saw him get out-wrestled by Austin Vanderford pretty clearly. So he has put a lot of work in, I'm sure, working with Leon, who also had to make similar type of improvements in his game to get to the point that he's at. So a lot of work between those two, I'm sure, and you could see it. So props to Fabian for that. But Johnny fought well, too. You know, he was playing the long game. He understood that he wasn't getting him down easy. He understood that he was across from a skilled striker. But he was also willing to strike, and he knew he was just going to kind of keep that pressure himself and keep mixing it up so that Fabian had to wrestle defensively and make him clinch. And I'm sure he was thinking, you know, this will pay dividends as the fight goes on cardio-wise. But it didn't end up mattering. You know, he threw back-to-back right hooks early in the third. Edwards blocked the first one. Didn't expect another one coming immediately after it, the way Eblen chose to throw that. Took his hand down and got caught flush, and he went down, and Johnny Eblen is a monster on top, and he showed that again here. Just huge pressure, nasty elbows, and he put Fabian Edwards out cold. And it's a good thing he did, too, because I don't know that I realized it during the fight, but then you see as soon as that fight ends how bad that cut on Johnny Eblen's eye was.
Yeah.
Like, it's not impossible that if that fight kept going, that a doctor would have looked at that cut and been like, this may be a wrap. So it's a good thing for him that he got Fabian Edwards out of there when he did. But, yeah, he keeps rolling. Another big win for him. And he also changed his nickname from Diamond Hands to Pressure, which may be an even bigger win because Diamond Hands was horrible and Pressure makes plenty of sense. So 2 wins for Johnny this weekend.
Omar, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts on Eblen's performance defending his strap in front of the Irish crowd in what was, by the way, Bellator's 10th trip to Dublin?
I mean, I thought it was a great performance. I thought the pressure definitely was the one of the deciding factors, but I thought his explosiveness, was really what made the difference. The explosiveness from Eblen, I thought, is what nullified a lot of the opportunities I think Edwards thought he might have on the entry, right? It looked like he was trying to counter a lot of times when Eblen was trying to enter and close distance and go for the takedown. But the explosiveness from Eblen, I think, kind of ruined those moments for Edwards. And he never adjusted to the timing, never was able to find those openings as cleanly, because there was a lot of, he was looking for uppercuts, like lead uppercuts as he was coming in. He was looking for knees at certain times, but was just getting stuffed before he could actually get them off. So credit to Johnny Eblen for that as well. And like Mark said, after a certain point, it really didn't matter. Those right hands really put him out. He dropped to the floor. He was obviously still in it for a little bit, but you could tell he was dazed for sure. And it just got worse and worse from there.
I mean, you're right, Mark. The name change, the nickname change is a win, because the pressure in top position that Johnny Eblen brings is something to behold. It's scary. It's scary. He's a savage on the ground, man.
Yeah, we do have to give credit to Edwards, though. I mean, we've seen other people, falter under that pressure. And frankly, by the third round, I think he just kind of got caught. I don't think he was expecting 2 right hands. I mean, not a lot of people are. That's not a typical combo you see, especially from somebody who doesn't strike, right? I mean, you can change the timing, you can do that stuff, but it was well done. But the first 2 rounds, I think, like Mark pointed out, I mean, they were competitive. I mean, Edwards was in it. He did not back down from a fight. They were both going at it. Anytime the takedown happened, Edwards did his best to come back up, keep hands on the wrists, not allow Johnny Eblen to get complete control of his body. I mean, there were a lot of pluses on Edwards' side. But that 2 right-hand combination just ruined his life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think Edwards showed that he is a quality middleweight in today's MMA, and I think Eblen did what you would hope he could do if he's as good as he says he is.
So this is Johnny Eblen's second title defense, his third consecutive title win with the Bellator middleweight scrap since taking it from Gegard Mousasi. Also, he stays undefeated. His unblemished record now 14-0 for Pressure Eblen. Does he put it in the middle or the beginning? Johnny Pressure? Is it Johnny Pressure?
I think they might have said it in the middle.
Johnny Pressure. What a name.
Yeah.
So that being said, he stays undefeated. His second title defense. Mark, what do you think could be next for the Bellator middleweight champ?
There's really not anyone for him to fight right now, at least not anyone clear. Bellator's middleweight division is not as deep as some of their other divisions, and Eblen has beaten the top 3 guys in a row at this point. He beat Gegard, he beat Tokov, and he beat Fabian Edwards. So, I don't know. There's nothing else really booked at this moment. Maybe, if people may not remember, but Douglas Lima recently moved up to middleweight, and he won his first fight at middleweight, and obviously he's a name. So maybe you take him and someone like an Aaron Jeffrey, who's won 3 out of 4, put them in against each other, and the winner gets a shot. I'm not sure what else makes much sense. But yeah, there's no one who's the obvious choice.
Omar, any other thoughts on that?
Not so much. I mean, Mark is the one who kind of knows those rankings a lot better than I do. The UFC rankings are enough for me.
Yeah, Bellator is sort of the Mark beat. Well, so is everything else. Mark's obsessed. It's okay.
And I do think Fabian is easier to match up. I think you can put him against Anatoly Tokov, and that actually works pretty perfectly, and I'd like to see who comes out of that one.
I was just going to ask about Fabian. Wonderful. Okay, in the interest of time, hey, congrats to Johnny Eblen for making me a believer. I don't think I've taken Johnny Eblen in many of these past few championship bouts, and
Did you this time? You did, right? Yeah, you did.
Quite possibly. I finally I bought my ticket, guys, to the Johnny Eblen train. Okay, let's move on in the interest of time. In the co-main event, Bellator 299, once again going down in Dublin, Ireland at the 3 Arena. In the featherweight division, Aaron Pico gets another dub, TKOing Pedro Carvalho in the first round. The official time, 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Omar, start us off this time. What are your thoughts on Aaron Pico winning again and winning impressively once again.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Pico's a scary, scary dude, man. I mean, in this fight, it didn't even really end up in a striking match, right? I mean, Aaron Pico immediately went for a takedown, tried to go for control, was beating on Carvalho while he was doing it. And then once we got to a point where it just kind of seemed like Carvalho was drowning, and he just and was drowning quickly. And gave up. It put himself in a really bad position to take a lot of damage. Didn't look great doing it, right? Like turtled up pretty hard. Basically went belly down. I mean, it was wild. It was a great performance from Pico.
Mark, Pico with consecutive wins once again. Looked so impressive this time, getting the very tough and very talented Pedro Carvalho out of there in the first. What are your thoughts?
Bro, he ran through Pedro Carvalho. I mean, he bullied him for every single second that fight lasted. He still fights a bit wild. That's the one concern I think there is when you consider Aaron Pico fighting like a Patricio Pitbull, is that it does sort of still feel like he's there to be hit at times. But he does so many things so well. I mean, Pedro Carvalho didn't stand a chance of stopping a takedown. Anytime Pico wanted to take him down, he literally just ran through him. His boxing is beautiful, as always. He's always carried power. You saw the uppercut in this fight that freaking dropped Carvalho to start the finish. I mean, it's an obvious statement, but the future is still very bright for Aaron Pico. And that fight, in a little nutshell, showed you everything that you love about this guy. He's an elite wrestler. He's got nasty hands. He carries power. He's got finishing instinct. It's a lot in a package for dudes to have to overcome.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Aaron Pico, still only 27 years old. For those who need to be reminded, he is a Bellator homegrown talent. He, in his career, let me pull him back up here. Where did it go? Aaron Pico, whatever his record is, he began at Bellator. Every single one of his pro MMA bouts have been under the Bellator banner. Bellator, Mark, I know that you don't maintain Bellator rankings. Maybe you should start at some point as well. We need those world rankings, buddy. We need those. We need those on my desk by Friday. Bellator ranks Pico in their featherweight division at number 2 behind Adam Borch and Patricio Pitbull, who is the champion right now. What are your thoughts on what could be next for the young and dangerous Pico?
I know Patricio Pitbull is hurt. He got surgery in July. I remember him saying that he was probably going to be out for 6 months, so we probably don't see him fighting until spring at the earliest. But it honestly works out okay, in my opinion, because I think that both Aaron Pico and Jeremy Kennedy have a claim to deserving a title shot, and now Pitbull's out, so you run that right back, in my opinion. We didn't really get to see that fight, of course. Pico's shoulder came out. You can run it back now. You can do it for an interim title even, if you want to do it that way. Settle that, and then the winner is waiting for the return of Pitbull.
Omar, what are your thoughts?
I like that. I like that. Especially because of the way that fight ended. That fight ended with the bullshit. So,
Mark, do you have any thoughts on who could be next for Pedro Carvalho at 145 pounds at Bellator?
I didn't. I just did the winners going forward at this point.
That's fine.
But I can try to think, since you asked quickly. Geez, I'm not seeing.
They have him ranked 5th.
I necessarily love here. I mean, I'd love to say Kieran Clark, who
Right behind Mads Burnell.
keeps winning, but I don't think they want to. They're really taking it slow with Kieran Clark, so I'm not sure he's going to get that type of a jump. Keone Diggs, I guess I'll throw out.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Bellator 299 once again went down at the 3 Arena in Dublin, Ireland, and probably one of the more popular Irish fighters on the Bellator roster. Fought and unfortunately was defeated on this night in the women's featherweight division. Sara Collins defeated Sinead Kavanagh by split decision after 3 rounds. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Sarah Collins is pretty solid, man. You know, she came in here, she gave no shits, hostile environment, veteran opponent, power coming at her, and she didn't care. She never even grappled. It was a straight striking match, and she won it. Like from jump, she came out, she kept up the pressure, she stayed calm, she looked comfortable on the feet. I mean, in round 2, she started to land her kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, and the body kicks hurt Kavanagh. And then by round 3, I honestly feel like Kavanagh had gotten pretty tentative. I don't know if she somehow thought she was ahead. I do think she probably won round 1, but she didn't win round 2. So I don't know what – I don't know. It looked like she really – maybe it was just that she didn't want to take any more shots to that body. But Collins took over that fight, and I will definitely be interested to see what she does in her next time out, because if she did win this fight, I thought she was going to have to do it with leaning on her judo and eventually the grappling, and she didn't even go that route. So, yeah, pretty intriguing.
Omar, what are your thoughts? The Irish star on this Dublin card unfortunately did not get a win for her home country on this card. Sarah Collins spoiled the party. What are your thoughts?
I thought Sara Collins showed way more technique in that fight than Kavanagh did. Kavanagh seems like the type of fighter that's very reliant on her strength and power and landing the big shots. But Collins was very content fighting from the outside. And let me tell you, I am a big fan of a good front kick, a good teep, a good lead. And she was digging that toe right into Kavanagh's soul. I mean, at least 3 or 4 times did she dig her toes right deep into her solar plexus. And it was quick. I mean, you really don't need much. A lot of people think you got to throw a lot of power in there. You don't need much, man. A really good teep is basically a jab with your foot. And when you have no sneakers on, and I would definitely take at least one of my sneakers off if I got into a street fight. I'm digging toes right into your soul, 100%.
Why not just dig the toe of your shoe?
Because it's not the same. It's not the same.
Doesn't dig the same.
I would kind of equate it to sort of like if I dig into your body with like the blunt end of a hammer, it's gonna suck. But if I dig like a screwdriver, it's gonna suck a lot more. You know what I mean?
I get it.
And you know, if you point them right, you got like 5 little tiny nubbin screwdrivers on you. So
yeah, teeps are great, man.
I love them. They save lives. It's true. It's true.
Let's talk quickly now about what could be next for Sarah Collins at women's featherweight. Mark.
I think if you're Bellator, you're always looking for new contenders at featherweight. So I think you give her another established fighter. Now, she is only 5-0, so I don't want to completely rush her, but I think putting her across from another vet like an Arlene Blenko would be perfect. Okay. I also want to say, I just realized that I picked Keone Diggs for the last one, totally forgetting that he left Bellator and signed with the PFL. So I would like to edit that matchup that I chose and actually say James Gallagher versus Pedro Carvalho, which I like better anyway.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Correcting the record. Okay, let's move on. 2 more for Bellator, and then we're going to hop over to UFC. Back in the Bellator featherweights division, Mads Burnell with the hot mic moment of the night got the win.
Guy.
Oh my God, Mads Burnell. How do you say this kid's last name? Daniel Weichel. Weichel with the V. That's right. Burnell gets the win by unanimous decision. The scores are at 29-28, 30-27, and 30-27. All for Mads. Omar, start us off this time. What are your thoughts of Burnell's performance?
Like, I don't. Maybe I'm in the minority. I thought Weichel got round 1. I mean, I guess there was one judge that I think gave Weichel round 1, but
it was really close. I can't remember which way I scored it, but yeah, the 2 that ensured Mads won were 2 and 3. Yeah. Weichel, I might have thought Weichel got 1. Yeah.
2 and 3 were a shit show because that you want to talk about pressure? Like we just spent all this time talking about Johnny Eblen and pressure. Mads Burnell is the epitome of pressure. That dude is terrifying. I mean, you want to talk about seeing the devil as he's walking forward at you? That man was smiling half the time. Nothing was really phasing him, pushing forward. I don't think at any time during 2 or 3, Weichel was able to not move back. I mean, he was just trying to run away the entire time while still trying to engage. And by the time he realized it, he had just been running circles in the oh, here we go. Which one is it? Decagon? Circle?
That's a circle. It's a circle.
It's a circle.
Circle.
Who had a Decagon? Somebody had a Decagon. I didn't just make that up. Who had a Decagon?
Maybe Strikeforce or
Did Strikeforce have one?
I don't know.
Bellator definitely is a circle.
All right, circle. So he was running. He was running that whole time trying to engage with Mads Burnell, and it wasn't working. And Mads was landing some nasty shit to the body, to the head, all while moving forward and just walking him down. It's terrifying. His ability to do that and that being the game plan and it working seemingly too many times is just, it's terrifying.
Most promoters just call it a cage because it probably is like a hexagon shape. And even if it is an octagon, they can't call it an octagon because the UFC copyrighted that.
Right. Trademark.
When I announced for XFC, they kind of wanted the X branding. So they had a cage in the shape of a hexagon, which is 6 sides. Right. And they wanted me to always say the hexagon. And the ring card girls were called the Hex Girls. I was like, guys, this is kind of, it's not it, man.
That's stupid.
I'd be like, coming to the hexagon first. I was like, this sounds a little forced, guys. No, but it was cool. Let's move on.
Wait, can I talk about Mads Burnell?
No, Mark, no. Okay. Yes.
This was a Mads Burnell fight. He's a weird fighter, man, because he takes some frustrating losses that make you question why you loved him so much. But then he puts together performances like this, and he just reminds you all over again. Like and Omar said this, but just to reiterate, he walked Weichel down all fight. He showed off his hands, beautiful combos, elbows mixed in. He used his grappling to take over any time Weichel tried to bring it to the mat, which is another thing about Mads Burnell, that he's such a nasty grappler. But half the time he's like, I don't really want to do that. So he's a wild dude. And then obviously on the mic he's a wild dude too. But like the Carvalho loss that he took, that one still baffles me how Carvalho beat him. But aside from that, it has taken a pretty damn good fighter to beat Mads Burnell. And Weichel, as well-rounded as he is at the end. And then, of course, he actually called it a career at the end of this fight. Whatever he was, 56, 7 something fights into his career. So not totally unexpected there. But yeah, Mads Burnell is a dog, and he's not going away. And one of these days, I feel like he'll finally break through and beat one of these higher-level guys that, like how he fought Adam Boric and couldn't get it done, a guy like that, and really get himself maybe a title shot at some point here in Bellator.
So Burnell, once again with consecutive wins after back-to-back losses to Boric and Carvalho. He improves to 18-5 as a pro inside the cage with his 8th decision win. Mark, what do you think could be next for this Bellator featherweight from, where is he from? Denmark.
So as you said, he has lost a couple in a row. I don't think he's shooting right back up. So I will say there's an upcoming fight. Henry Corrales has won 3 in a row, and Kai Kamaka has won 2 in a row. They're fighting each other at Bellator 300, and I think the winner of that would be a great action opponent for our boy Mads.
What exactly did he say on the mic? It's called.
His next opponent is a little lady he's got back home, and he's looking to blow her back out into a million pieces, something along those lines.
Something romantic, Yeah.
Not leaving too much up to the imagination with that one.
Let's see. My next opponent is a little lady back home who I want to blow her back into absolute pieces.
Wow. We're coming a little hot.
I got to give him credit. It made sense. I mean, it was a coherent sentence.
And then he took a shot at the Dublin crowd right before that, too. Did you catch that?
No.
He was like, just want to say to all the crowd, if you meet me at the bar tonight, drinks are on me, and they all start cheering. And he's like, wait, I'm not done, so they be quiet. And he goes, because you're all going to need him with how gross all your women look here.
Oh, my God.
The disrespect to the Irish women. Ireland is a beautiful country with beautiful people. Come on. And that accent, man.
He's always been a character, though. Not necessarily a heel, but always a character.
I wonder what his full name is. Do you think it's Mads or something?
Madsword?
Because he's Danish. Madswell.
What did you just say?
Madswell. I was kidding. I was making up. Madswell is funny.
That's his name. It's Mads
Yeah,
Zeran Burnell.
Right.
Zeran
is his name.
Oh, wow.
What would it be short for?
Madsmillion. Okay,
Maybe
last one.
he's just like Danish as fuck, you know?
Okay, welterweight division, last one before we hop over to UFC. In the welterweight division, opening up the main card for Bellator 299 in Dublin. Levan, how do you say this? Chokheli?
Chokheli.
Chokheli?
Yeah.
Defeated Sabah Homasi by knockout via front kick, 151 of round number 1. Mark, start us off this time. What were your thoughts of this very short fight?
This man, Levan Chokheli, now I'm forgetting, Chokheli, right? Yeah, I can't even say it, had the highlight of the entire weekend. Bellator, UFC, whatever it may be. One of the best front kicks you'll ever see in your life, and immediately put Sabah Homasi out cold. Just an unbelievable finish, an unbelievable way to put out a guy like Homasi, who's known for being in wars. And these two were slinging some heavy leather while it lasted, but it's Levan who comes up with the big W. And he's on a great run right now. That's 3 in a row, and that's obviously a highlight that's going to push him into what will probably be a noteworthy fight.
Yeah, man. Omar, your thoughts before we depart Bellator?
That front kick is wild, man. First of all, it was an extremely fast front kick. Even the cameras and the replays didn't even capture it to its full potential. I feel like it was even too quick on the slow-mo. The one thing I did notice is it went through the middle of his guard, because Homasi did have his guard up. It went right through the middle of his guard, and it clipped him on the side of his head. It didn't. First, I thought when it first happened, I thought he got Tony Ferguson. I thought his whole shit got messed up. And then they showed the replay, and even the slow mo, as much as it didn't capture, it did show that it didn't hit him from under. It hit him from the side. And it clipped him right on the temple, and just, I've never seen somebody's lights go. It was literally like he just kicked the switch, a literal switch that turned Sabah Homasi off. It was wild. I've never seen anything like that. It was crazy.
It was a big follow-up shot too, and Sabah was down and out for a while.
Starched. Yeah. He was starched.
The announcers were sounding pretty concerned for a minute there, but thankfully it seemed like he was all right eventually.
With this highlight knockout, Levan Chokheli, previously unranked in Bellator, it earned him the number 10 spot, right behind Brennan Ward, Lorenz Larkin, and Douglas Lima. Mark, what do you think could be next for this heavy hitter?
I will say Lorenz Larkin. He's coming off a tough loss to Andrei Koreshkov. He's looking to bounce back. He's an established name for Levan to try to overcome. I feel like he has earned that. If not him, Neiman Gracie could work as well in a wholly different type of style matchup. Obviously, the Larkin one would be pitting the strikers against each other. The Gracie one would be grappler, striker. But Levan can wrestle a bit as well. So either of those I'd like to see. I feel like he has earned a shot against one of these established Bellator names.
Nice. Omar, what are your thoughts?
You know me, I'm not going with a pick, but I will say I'm trying to figure out. Chokheli fights a lot like a kickboxer, and I can't. Maybe that's just how he learned how to fight, because I can't find any kind of record of him as a kickboxer. But he's got there's something about the way he strikes that just gives me a kickboxer vibes, I guess.
And you're like, I just can't shake this feeling. I just hate him now because he's a kickboxer and not Muay Thai.
Not at all.
If you want to piss off a Muay Thai combatant, call Muay Thai kickboxing.
Oh, well, yeah. It's not the same thing.
Let me ask you this, just out of curiosity. On a fighter's Wikipedia page, if they have fought at a Muay Thai promotion, like a Lion fight or something like that, and then they've also fought at Glory, are those fights going to be under the same record? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do know what you mean.
I
don't think so. I think the different rule set is going to determine, I would imagine, the sort of the sectional part of it, I guess you could say.
I would think so.
Because I do there are guys in my gym who a lot, from what I've seen, can be difficult to get fights sometimes
Yeah.
at the lower levels. So they'll take kickboxing fights if they have to. They'll take Muay Thai fights if they have to. They'll take ones with modified rules that allow elbows. Sometimes they don't allow elbows. So it all depends. Chase is about to do some wild shit right now that I don't know if I can talk about right now, but he looked like he signed up for some wild fucking 1993 rules shit. So I guess we'll see how that goes.
Could you tell our audience who Chase is?
Oh, Chase, what is Chase Brooks? Chase Brooks is
right.
Yes, one of the nastiest fighters I've seen, and definitely a talent on his way up. Has a ton of belts at this point. Was supposed to fight for another belt, but the guy pulled out last minute. I'm sure you'll probably see him back at Warriors Cup in no time. I think
He has a belt. Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to go for one for sure. It seems like so.
Oh hell yeah, man! I'm so excited to see what weight class they do for next year's Road to One. I love it.
It looks like he's trying to do. He's a 155 pounder, but he walks around. It looks like 170. Yeah. So fuck.
But that's interesting too about the Muay Thai and kickboxing thing. One more thing about this, and we'll move on. Is at a place like Warriors Cup, take just for example, there are a couple of guys who are like champions at Warriors Cup, who, like, it's a Muay Thai promotion and it's a Muay Thai rule set, but they don't really fight Muay Thai. Like they fight, like they use a guy named David Agbaji. He's like famous. I think he's more of like a kickboxer. In fact, I mean, I've heard a couple other guys who I won't name kind of like, not talk shit about him, but just kind of like almost poo-poo him of like, he's not really fighting Muay Thai. Like, he's a kickboxer. He's like a Glory style kind of guy, and he's a superstar, and he's a champ. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess there's nothing stopping you from fighting any kind of way, at any kind of, like, you could fight like Taekwondo at Warriors Cup. No one's going to stop you.
But there are certain rules, and I don't know what they are, to be honest, and I probably should. But there are a lot of little nuanced rules within Muay Thai and within kickboxing that make them vary. And, like, it's not to say you can't use Taekwondo, but sometimes Taekwondo, especially in a competitive setting, can sometimes not be doing the same thing to win that a kickboxing fight would be doing, or that a Muay Thai fight
karate.
would be doing, right? And you could see even from this weekend, the Bratang Super Leg fight that went on. Like, a lot of guys who watch Muay Thai and are traditionalist Muay Thais, those knees are everything to them.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people are looking at Bratang moving forward and like landing the big elbow on Super Leg, and that's all well and good. But, like, Bratang ate shit in that fight when it came to knees. I mean, a lot of knees, bad ones.
Dude, I still haven't watched that. I want to watch that so badly.
So there's a lot of these. I think the way that we see fights in a lot of ways that they see fights, and like I said, there are some nuanced rules back and forth that do make these fights a little bit different than one another. But I can tell you, when it comes to Muay Thai, Chase is nasty. The kid uses elbows so efficiently, like I've never seen. Spins like I never seen. He's really, really good.
Okay, let's move on now from Bellator and move over to the UFC. This past weekend, UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot went down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Hey, I was there. Not there, but I was like 2 minutes away. I did look up on my phone how far away the Apex was, and it was like right down the street, which was nuts.
Why didn't you go watch?
It happened before mine. And in the main event, Mateusz Gamrot defeated Rafael Fiziev by TKO due to a knee injury in the second round, the official time 2:03 of round number 2. Omar, start us off this time for UFC. Give us your take on the first round, going into the second round, and ultimately how this fight had to finish due to a knee injury.
Yeah, so the first round I thought was really fun, really competitive. I mean, this was kind of what I would imagine what we expected, right? Fiziev was definitely trying to land the shots, was definitely trying to keep it standing. Gamrot was trying to find his entries to move in, but definitely wasn't afraid to scrap a little bit. But I thought Fiziev got the better of the exchanges when it came to it. His takedown defense I thought was great, as I think it normally is. I think the man has a lot of strength in his hips that I think people sometimes underestimate because he's not necessarily a grappler. But that doesn't mean he can't stop a takedown, and he does a really good job of it. And the second round is my nightmare, dog. I'm gonna be honest. He threw that kick, and his knee just went to clack.
It was his back knee, right? It was his base knee.
It's the base knee, and I got to be honest, man. I've attributed it for myself to me not turning my hips over a lot. So a lot of times I can put a lot more pressure on my ligaments and my knees than I should. And sometimes I've felt some sketchy things here and there when I kick, and I try to correct it and whatever else. But this right there that happened to Fiziev, that is my legitimate nightmare.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, man. All right, Mark, what are your thoughts on how this fight was panning out and then ultimately how it took this horrible U-turn?
Yeah, it sucks so much that we were robbed of this fight because it was really so fun for a round and a half. You know, watching all the different ways that Rafael Fiziev was trying to avoid these takedowns. Like, we were going to be in store for some crazy scrambles as that fight went on. And then as much as, yes, Fiziev did look like the faster and more dangerous striker, especially in terms of in combination, Gamrot was really landing some clean single shots with that right hand. So, you know, he was hanging there. Fiziev was combating the grappling. It was really shaping up to be a fun fight. I don't think I saw anything in it to move me off my take that I would pick Fiziev if it were to happen again. But unfortunately, his leg had other plans. He throws what honestly looked like a pretty regular kick for himself, but the posting leg just gave out. It's just one of those things. Of course, he collapses. Gamrot jumps on him, fights over. You know, I've said this before. Sometimes I wish that injury wins and losses would have their own column on records, kind of like how draws and no contests do. Just because I hate that's a loss for Fiziev and a win for Gamrot. Because I don't really see how you could say Gamrot caused that one. Like, that was a freak injury. But, you know, it is what it is. It is a win for Gamrot. Fiziev hits the sidelines for what sounds like it'll be a year now. Tore his ACL, if for anyone who doesn't know.
I didn't hear, actually. Damn.
Yep. And, you know, I don't think Gamrot skyrockets up rankings or anything like that here, but obviously he stays in line for another big fight.
Yeah, man.
Bro, that's surgery and the whole deal. That is... Oh. I hope there is insurance, because somebody, one of the coaches at my gym had that happen to him where his ACL just was like, fuck you, and just went. And the bill, I mean, we had to do a couple of fundraisers because the bill for that thing is fucking crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Okay. Who do you think could be Gamrot's next opponent? Omar, why don't you start us off this time?
Sorry. I all of a sudden was not prepared for that.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't have a great answer. I think that it's tough because it's not like he staked some huge claim here with this win. Like, you know, I don't think Dustin Poirier is sitting there looking at this and thinking, you know what, I should fight this Mateusz Gamrot guy. I mean, maybe Michael Chandler is if he doesn't end up fighting Conor. Dariush already fought him and beat him. I mean, maybe if Charles loses to Islam, they could make that fight. I know that's what Gamrot asked for, but I just don't feel like any of those seem super realistic at this particular moment. So I don't know. I honestly feel like the most realistic choice to me seems like having Gamrot and Arman Tsarukyan run it back, considering how close their fight was the first time and considering these top guys don't want to fight them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of these guys says, you know what, sign me up. I'll be the guy that fights a Gamrot. But I just don't get the sense that, like, the Poiriers of the world are looking to do that.
Dude, I was thinking that during this fight and also when it wrapped up, I was like, man, Gamrot he just got this win technically over Fiziev. And now he's like, man, Gamrot's kind of arriving into the upper echelon of lightweight.
Yeah.
And then, like, Tsarukyan is going to eventually also. And these two guys are going to have to fight each other at some point again. But maybe it's going to be now. Maybe it's going to be now.
Yeah, and if Fiziev had won, I think it's easier. Like, I could much more easily see a Poirier or a Chandler being like, dude, this guy Fiziev's a nasty striker. Let me go have a war with this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, that seems like more their style. Whereas Gamrot, I feel like they're like, I don't know if that's what I need to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on.
Omar?
Oh, yeah, back to you, Omar. Back to you.
So I also don't really think that Gamrot needs to really go anywhere. And so at this point, to be honest, I think the winner of Grant Dawson, Bobby Green would be a fun fight against Gamrot.
I thought you might say that.
I thought you might say that. Okay, in the co-main event at this UFC Fight Night at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas this past Saturday night, September 23rd, Bryce Mitchell gets back in the win column, defeating Dan 50K Ige by unanimous decision. The scorecards read 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28 all for Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, who came proper with his book of Psalms at the end of this fight. Mark, start us off this time. Bryce Mitchell, he is back in the win column after suffering a nasty loss to Ilia Topuria. What are your thoughts?
This was a really close fight. Neither guy would give in any moments of this fight. You know, Bryce Mitchell pushed through some big shots. Even at the end of the fight, you see Dan Ige still finding a way to get back on top, trying to counter the grappling of Bryce as time ticks away. You know, they both pushed it the whole fight. Yeah, and I didn't even say Bryce gutting through a nasty cut on his eye or multiple cuts, whatever that was. His eye was a friggin' mess.
Yeah, it was.
But I do think Bryce won this fight. I think he won it pride style in a close one. And I think he won it 10-point must style in a close one. And it was very close. Dan Ige certainly gave Bryce some problems. Clearly, if you look at Bryce at the end of that fight. But I also think there's an argument to be made that Bryce won every round of the fight. I thought round one was really close. But if you asked me to call it for one guy, I'm going to say Bryce. I think he did take that round by the end of it. Round two was even closer, if that's possible. Bryce was down big early, but then he had a huge finish to end that round, so I don't hate scoring that round for him, too. I was really torn on what I thought of that one. And then he did win round three, so I'm totally content with him being the winner. It wasn't exactly the show-out type performance that I predicted it would be from Bryce Mitchell. I thought he would have more success in the grappling than he did. But I do think he gutted out a tough fight, got it done, and and we know this, but the guy's grappling is so damn slick. He had a couple transitions and back takes, and the one where it seemed like Ige had gotten on top of him, and then he wrapped the figure four around Ige and slipped back to his back. I mean, he's a talented grappler for sure, and he guts out a big win here that he needed.
Nice, Omar.
Yeah, I would agree. He was another one that had a lot of explosive takedowns, and they're nothing wild, but he's able to change levels really quickly. He's able to get his hands around the legs really quickly. So it's, it works for him, especially when he's in a bad spot. There were a few moments in that fight where I thought Ige had him kind of dead to rights, and Bryce Mitchell was able to utilize his wrestling and his grappling to, at minimum, survive. He didn't always end up on top or, in an advantageous position, but he also didn't continuously get his ass beaten. So, in those bad spots, I thought he made the best of it. But I also agree with Mark. I mean, I thought the first round was pretty clear for me when it came to Ige. I saw that they still gave Bryce Mitchell some people gave Bryce Mitchell 3 rounds. But I thought Ige had the first round, and then I thought the next two, Bryce Mitchell just outworked him. I thought there was a lot more control, a lot more takedowns, a lot more grappling. And I thought a lot of the damage that was really coming had come from the first round from Ige, and it just kind of slowed down as the fight progressed.
Yeah, man. I'm a fan of both of these guys, and I hate to see Dan Ige lose in his close fight, but Bryce Mitchell, I agree. I think he edged it out. His grappling is second to none in the featherweight division, and I'm excited to see what's next for him.
Second to Ilia Topuria, maybe.
That's true. Yes. But wasn't Bryce Mitchell had the flu for that fight?
Yeah.
Not that it would have made any difference. Not that it would have made any difference because Topuria is just next level, man. What do we think is next for these guys? Mark, let's start with the winner here. Bryce Mitchell, 145 pounds. He moves on with this victory. Who do you think could match up with him next at featherweight?
There's a million options, honestly, because not a single fighter in the featherweight top 10 is booked at the moment, outside of, I guess, Volk and Topuria, but they're not even technically booked as of yet. So you could go a lot of ways here. You could move him up a bit. He could fight someone right near him in the rankings. There's a ton of names that would be perfectly acceptable as an opponent. If you ask me to pick one, I think I'm going to say Giga Chikadze. Giga beat Caceres, but it was not easy. Fairly close fight. Bryce beat Ige, but it was not easy. Pretty close fight. And I think Giga's violence potential will test Bryce, and that Bryce's wrestling will test Giga. And I think we learn which guy is ready for the next level. So that's where I'll go.
Classic. Omar, any other thoughts?
I mean, no. I don't think I do have any other thoughts.
He's like,
no.
Approve.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Bryce Mitchell versus the Devil, I think we're gonna go down that path. That's fine.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Did you hear him? Did you hear him take shots at Bisping?
Dude, I saw that clip of him on like a podcast with Bisping.
I don't think he was on a podcast with Bisping. Bisping was talking about how he doesn't like religion in the octagon, or like people getting super overly religious in the octagon or something like that. Something along those lines. And I think Bryce took offense to it and was like, well, the Bible says an eye for an eye, and I think Bisping would know best. And
Jesus.
Wow. When was this?
Recently, after the fight, sometime between then and now.
Dude, I'm talking about. I saw this.
Didn't let him pray in there with he wanted Ige to pray or something. And
I think that's what
give him the mic.
Dude, I saw this clip. They must have been on some kind of podcast or YouTube show. Bryce and Bisping, and I think Anthony Smith. Does Anthony Smith and Bisping have a podcast together? I feel like I've seen a lot of clips of the two of them together.
Anthony Smith does have a podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is that what it is? Is he with Bisping?
So he might be with Bisping now, because Bisping used to be with some comedian who doesn't do it anymore with him, and Anthony Smith might have taken over with him. Yeah.
Anyhow, then maybe Bryce was the guest, and it was a super fast clip that I saw, maybe like 10, 15 seconds of Bryce putting Bisping on the spot.
It's Anthony Smith now, yep. But the Believe You Me podcast.
Believe You Me. And Bryce put Bisping on the spot. He was like, yes or no, did we evolve from apes? And Bisping was like, yes. And Bryce just like flies off the handle. He's like, it's a lie. It's a lie from Satan. And Bisping is just like laughing at him. And then the clip ends in a few seconds, but
yeah.
I'm
never gonna be fully on the Bryce Mitchell train. I can't. Flat earthers for me are just an immediate.
Is he a flat earther?
Oh yeah, he's
like hard, like
Jesus.
Mike. He's gonna sit you down for a presentation and prove it to you.
Oh no!
Like yes,
come on, man.
Might pray with you before and after. Just
flat earthers are rough. I got no issue if you want to say you don't believe in evolution and
100%.
you believe God put us. I'm totally fine with that. Believe what you want to believe in that regard. But the flat Earth thing is rough.
You can say what you want and believe what you want. Dinosaurs are real and it actually happened, so they can do what they want.
Dude, that's another big thing now. All these people that think dinosaurs are fake and that these bones get planted, like
it's not that new.
Some have even thought that dinosaurs and humans roamed the Earth together.
Yeah. Well, there's people who would think that the Earth is only like 6,000 years old.
Right.
Shit is out of control, dog.
Yeah.
They're just too much for me. I can't get on that train. I can appreciate him as a fighter.
But it's also like with the dinosaur thing, it's like if you think that dinosaurs were fake, have been fake, what is the point? What's the conspiracy? So like these museums just make up
big fossil taking all the money.
Taking all the money.
Fossil.
You know, like the Museum of Natural History in New York is just making it up.
Yeah.
For what? Who knows?
All right, let's circle back.
Let's go back to mixed martial arts. Okay. Marina Rodriguez defeats.
Wait, can I match up Ige before we're out of here?
Please do. Thank you, Jesus. Yes.
I think that Dan should be defending his ranking at this point in time. Obviously, tough loss, but he did take it. Two guys on their way up are Jack Shore and Lerone Murphy, and I would love to see Dan have to take on one of those guys.
Damn. Lerone Murphy would be a good one.
Yeah, man, for sure. Man. Okay. Dude, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Your boy's fading because I think all this travel is catching up to me.
Get it together.
Sure.
Okay, women's strawweight division. Marina Rodriguez defeats Michelle Waterson-Gomez by TKO in the second round. Many now calling for Michelle's retirement for the Karate Hottie. Omar, start us off with this one. What do you think about the performance of Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson Gomez? And give us your thoughts on the whole should the Karate Hottie hang it up thing.
So I understand the reaction in the moment, right? I think Karate Hottie, the real issue is Waterson hasn't really been overly exceptional when it comes to the success of her UFC career, right? The thing at this point that I think you can really take away from her career is that she is a dog and she is a gamer and she is there to fight. She is not going to back down. She is not a pussy. But at the same time, there's a lot of times in her fights where she does get outworked, right? There are women who visibly have more talent in the fight IQ with their striking, right? Michelle Waterson is fantastic at mixing things up. She does a great job of changing levels, taking things down when she has to. She has great dexterity in her legs. She does have good combos and things like that, but she's never really been like the power striker, right? She's never had some of these things in her back pocket. And Marina Rodriguez can fucking crack. And she was landing big shots at Michelle Waterson. And like I said, man, Michelle Waterson is a dog, and she's not going to quit. She's not going to tell you she's done the fight. The end of the first round, the fact that this girl was smiling across the ring at Marina Rodriguez, she's a psychopath. She's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, man.
I think the referee, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I haven't seen the interwebs or anything like that. More than anything, I think the referee failed her. And then after the referee failed her, I think her corner failed her. And again, I might be in the minority here. There might be a lot of guys or a lot of people who are just like, fighters go out on their shield and shit like that. And I get it. There were at least 2 or 3 moments in that fight where she was in not bad position, but a position where it was a finishing position. She was turtled up. She was shelled over. They stopped Izzy for less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which was a horrible stoppage. And I'll say it till the day I die.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but you and I both know that it should never have gone to the level that it went with Michelle Waterson either to that point. Like, she was getting lit up back and forth, and she was not. I think the reason why there's an argument for it is because she kept moving away and things like that, but there were cumulative strikes there. There was a lot of damage that was happening. There were moments that when she was getting hit, her eyes were all over the place. She was not focused in one area. I didn't like it, man. I didn't care for the end of that fight, and then it continued in a round 2. It just got more of the same. I had a real problem with how that fight was refereed, to be wholly honest with you.
Okay,
But
Mark, your thoughts? Oh, you're not done. Okay.
no, that was about it. I just Michelle Waterson's a dog, man, and it's nothing against her, and she was there to fight, but just I think the referee's job is to save these fighters from themselves, and I don't think it was Michelle Waterson's job to quit.
Amen.
She is certainly a dog, and she's one of the primary girls I think of when I think about if the UFC had ever added an atomweight division for women, because she had been an atomweight in the earlier part of her career, and I think if the UFC had 105, that we probably would have seen her there, and that she would have more power at that weight. But I think that she is happy to be in the UFC and can hang with these women at 115, so that's where she has stayed. But I do think if the UFC had 105, we would have probably seen her there by now. But all of that aside, things started off so well for her here. She got the immediate takedown, working on top, and it was like, wow, Michelle Waterson, right to the wrestling. Look at that. But as soon as Marina got back to her feet and got to work in the clinch briefly, it was already going south for Michelle. There was just a couple knees to the body that you could see hurt her. She was diving for takedowns already, got clinched again, and then really just got teed off on. It was knee and elbow city at every level, turned into a hell of a barrage. And as Omar said, she ate some crazy damage to stay in that fight the way she did. She never really wobbled to me. Like, she just kept eating continual damage. And for that reason, I didn't hate the ref letting it go. Like, even for me, I never found myself yelling at the TV, which I do often, being like, stop the fight, stop the fight. Like, I never hit that level. I was more like, this is going to get stopped any second. But then every time I thought that, I was like, oh, like, she's looking pretty aware. Oh, she's, like, separated for a second. So I feel like she just kept extending it. Like, I don't know. I didn't hate it. I wouldn't have minded if it got stopped, but I understood it not getting stopped. But either way, she didn't, as much as she was trying to act like she didn't have much left for round 2. She tried for a takedown, got stuffed and mounted, and then it was over shortly after that. So to flip back to Marina, just an utterly dominant performance from her. Honestly, exactly what she needed to put some buzz back on her name after taking back-to-back losses, and she is, right back on the tip of the tongue as a name to watch at strawweight.
Michelle Waterson, in spite of her record, she is quite a star. And she kind of came into the UFC with quite a bit of buzz, but looking at her record, she has had quite a speckled record pretty much ever since she came into the UFC. So she came into the UFC on the heels of losing her Invicta title. So she won the Invicta title, she defended it once, and then she lost it, and then she immediately went into the UFC right after that. She came into the UFC 12-4 as a pro. She won her first 2 UFC fights. Then she lost 2 in a row. Then she won 3 in a row, which was her longest UFC win streak. Then after winning 3 in a row, she lost 2 in a row. She won 1 and now has lost 4 in a row. So I sometimes I've wondered why she hasn't gotten to a higher place in her division. And I guess that's why. Because she never could string together more than 3 wins and generate that much buzz to march up the rankings in the strawweight division. But nonetheless, she will go down, even if she does retire or not. She will go down as one of the brighter spots in the sport and a bit of a personality and a bit of a star. Yeah. That being said, did we match these ladies up yet?
We did not.
Let's go toot and doot. Mark, start us off. Give us your take for the winner here, Marina Rodriguez.
For the winner, I think there is a really perfect opponent, but the girl would have to win to make it make sense, and that is Jessica Andrade. She is already matched up with Mackenzie Dern. If she ever did beat Mackenzie Dern, I think her and Marina Rodriguez would be a fantastic matchup that we haven't seen before. If Mackenzie wins that fight, Rodriguez has already beaten Mackenzie, so I guess you could say run that one back. I don't know if it would be my first choice. I think if Mackenzie did win that fight, I would pivot and maybe give it to like a Tabitha Ricci, someone who's on the come up like that. I know Marina's probably looking for a step up or at least a big name, which is why I said on Andrade initially. But Ricci is undefeated other than a fight that she took up at 125 where she lost to Manon Fior, who had like an 87-inch height and reach advantage on her. So I do think Ricci deserves a big fight at some point here. So that would be another option for Marina as well. But I think the Andrade one would work out great.
Omar?
I like the Andrade one, to be honest. The real issue is she's lost to contenders at this point that are on their way up, that are ranked above her. She's fought a lot of the women that are below her, and she's beat already. But like Yan Xiaonan, for example, she won a split decision on her, but Yan Xiaonan is on the way up, not that far away from a title shot herself. So there's a lot of log jamming right now in this division right now. So I think that's, a fight against Jessica Andrade in the event that she wins is probably going to be your best bet.
Nice. Do you guys have anything to say about Michelle Waterson Gomez?
Yeah, I guess to comment on what you threw out earlier, I don't think I feel she needs to retire. I think that she won her last fight, personally, against Luana Pinheiro. So this is the first time I really felt like I was watching Michelle like, oh, shit, she's getting overmatched here. So I think I got to see that more than once before I start saying someone needs to retire. So I'll make what I feel is a fun fight for her at this point. Obviously, she has lost a few in a row. But I think her and Loma Lookboon would be a really fun scrap.
Ooh. Omar?
Damn, that was actually my pick. I didn't think you were going to go there. I didn't think anybody else had their eyes on Loma Lookboon. So, all right, yes, that was mine.
Nice. All right, gentlemen. Let's keep marching on here. Bryan Battle, round 2 submission over AJ Fletcher. Marco first.
This was an odd fight in that the guy who had the immense size and length advantage in this fight needed to get in tight to win the fight. Like in round 1, these two were mostly striking at range, And it was AJ Fletcher and his little 67-inch reach that was getting the better of it. He was managing the range really well. And Battle was, too. He was almost kind of just content to work the teep exclusively, and I think he was trying to hope Fletcher rushed in and he could catch him on a counter. But it didn't happen. That patience really allowed Fletcher to find some nice moments and win the round, specifically the elbow that dropped Battle late. But then round 2 comes, and as soon as Bryan Battle finds the clinch, the fight changes. He is controlling Fletcher, landing some solid strikes, gets the takedown, and then just had a clear advantage once he was on top. And it seemed like Fletcher didn't want to move much and risk anything, and then as soon as he finally decided to move and try to make that push to get back to his feet, he ended up giving the back, and Battle found the choke pretty quickly. So Battle keeps rising. I said in the preview for this fight that it was an odd opponent. I'm hoping the next one is a bit higher up. I do think Battle deserves that, and he continues to look great.
Omar.
I really am enjoying the Bryan Battle journey here. It's such a good time. We are at officially the boy band version of Bryan Battle with the frosted tips. We've gone past the Super Saiyan Bryan Battle because it's not all blonde anymore. We went straight up 2000 Justin NSYNC vibes out there. So I appreciate it. And I thought it was a great match, man. I really enjoyed his control on the ground. I mean, AJ Fletcher's a strong dude. He's got those little T-Rex arms. And I thought Bryan Battle did a really great job controlling him on the ground. And finding success in a submission. Especially so close. I really didn't think that he was going to find anything with the way that they were rolling around, the way that AJ Fletcher was defending a lot of submission attempts that were happening. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's got his arm under the neck, and that was it. It was a really sneaky and a really, as far as I was concerned, really pretty dominant performance from Bryan Battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. All right, let's match up Bryan Battle, and then let's keep marching on. Omar, would you like to go first?
God damn, who do you give? I mean, you got to give him somebody legit, I think, at this point, right? At least to test him, at least to figure out where he's really at. I really wish I would have looked to see if these people were free. But I can tell you this. Tim Means recently just won a decent fight. It's not a bad scrap, man. And that's a name, that's an established name. That's a real fight as far as I'm concerned. So let's go with that.
Mark?
That's not a bad idea at all. I like that one. I'm in a similar vein. I guess maybe I'm going a little bit higher. But I do think he deserves it. He's 5-1 in the UFC, and the only loss is to Renat Fakhretdinov, who so far looks like a freaking murderer. So I'm going to throw him in there with Chaos Williams and see what happens.
Nice. All right, let's move on. Okay, last one before we jump into our lightning round. My man Charles Air Jourdain gets the win, round 1 submission over Ricardo Ramos. Let us discuss. Omar, go first.
Charles Jourdain looked great in this fight. I will say he sketched me out with that guillotine choke from side control. He held on to that way too long. Like, I feel like 85% of people that he would have fought at this point in his career would have definitely Von Flued his ass had his arm position been in there as long as it did. He's lucky he didn't get... I mean, it looked like he didn't know how to. He looked very lost in where that leverage was supposed to come from. Regardless, it didn't work out. Good for Charles Jourdain. And I will say it got real sneaky from there as well when it came to the ground game, man. I mean, he found success, found his back, and just snuck his way in there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He found a guillotine and snuck his way in there twice, actually, from what I remember. Had the first one not... Did anybody see the balloons?
Well, yeah, what was it?
I didn't touch anything. I don't know.
I wonder if the viewers are going to see that. Balloons just went across all of our screens.
Were. Great.
Oh,
you didn't see it? It's fine. No worries. But the guillotine the second time, man, was really in there. But it was kind of a moment where you weren't sure how deep it really was. And you could see that Homeboy wasn't coming out of that guillotine and tapped. It was a good performance from Charles Jourdain. It was really dominant.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, this is kind of a strange fight to analyze. Like, we didn't get to see a whole lot of exchanges from these two, which obviously we were looking forward to. It hit the mat and shifted to the grappling pretty early. And then really the whole time, Charles Jourdain just kept searching for that neck, even, as Omar said, in positions where it looked like he should have been bailing on the neck. He was just so intent on wrapping his arms around the neck. And then even so, despite how obviously he was hunting for it, he still catches Ricardo Ramos in a scramble and latches up the guillotine. So I don't know. It's just odd to me that a grappler as good as Ramos would get caught there when it's like that's the only thing Jourdain was looking for the whole time you were fighting him so far. So how are you not cognizant of that? So I don't know. I mean, weird one. Good on Jourdain, obviously, to get the tap, of course, and a big win for him.
Yeah, man. Let's stay with you, Mark, real quick. Give us a possible matchup for Mr. Charles Jourdain.
I don't see why we wouldn't make Charles Jourdain and Cub Swanson a reality. I mean, it's the fight that he asked for on the mic. Apparently, he's been calling for it for a little bit. And, yeah, I got no complaints. Let's do it.
Like it. Omar, thoughts before we jump into lightning?
That's a pretty big spot there for him. I mean, if we'll have that one out there. A reserved pick would be somebody like a Josh Coulibaugh and just kind of keep him in that area.
It's funny. That's actually that's the name I was going to say for Ramos. But I mean, they're all so close. It makes sense for Jourdain just as well, really. They're all in that little boat right there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into our lightning round. Finish up this UFC fight night. Here we go. Miles Johns, UD over Dan Argueta. Or Argueta.
I forgot we had this lightning round still. Goddamn. Who's
going
going Mike?
first?
Just a line. Oh, Mark, go. Talk.
For the first 3 minutes of this fight, it looked like we were going to be in for another Dan Argueta grappling exhibition. But Miles Johns weathered the early storm, and then he still had to, combat a lot of pressure and grappling attempts for the rest of the fight. But he did. He hung tough in the grappling. He reversed some positions. He kept Argueta off him for chunks of the fight here and there. And whenever he had that space, and we knew this going in, he had a distinct advantage in the striking in both technique and power. And he leaned on that. He landed big shots any chance he got. And, it was constant pressure from Argueta. So kudos to him on that. But Johns fought it right. Any chance he had an opening, any time to throw a right, any time to really plant and set up big power to make sure he was earning points on the scorecards, that's what he did. And he gutted out a W. So it was a solid performance from Miles Johns.
Do it.
Yeah, I do think it was a fun fight. I thought it was entertaining. I was just so distracted by the level of striking that they both had, frankly. I definitely think both of them had a lot of tightening up to do. There's so many holes, so many hands that were not up, that were down, that were allowing just all kinds of crazy shit to land. I mean, Miles Johns was throwing hooks from fucking one side of the country to the other. I mean, just a lot of little technical errors that, they might have some kind of close fight like this now, but the two of them have a real opportunity to get slept in later fights from what I saw. So other than the real competitiveness, I think between the two of them and the fun fight that it was, I think there's some real holes in their striking.
Okay, let's move on. Tim Means, round 3 TKO over Andre Fialho. Omar.
God, Andre Fialho is a dog, this guy. He's another one, man, this one, I don't think this one should have been stopped up until it did, but he was eating shit for a while. And some of those head kicks, man, that were quote unquote blocked, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You're still going to feel the force. It still rattles the brain. Your whole body feels it, frankly. It's not even just your head. It's the whole body that just radiates through you. So he was eating big, big shots. And credit to Tim Means, man, because he was in some trouble somewhere in that fight. But Tim Means is the dirty bird, man. He's not the one to trifle with. and got Fialho out of there, man. Great performance. Great fucking fight from the two of them, frankly.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, this one was a war the whole way through, and I know Fialho has lost a bunch lately, but you got to love that guy. He's an old school fighter. He is kill or be killed. He's not trying to win any decisions. And then on the other end, you have Tim Means, who had lost a few lately. He's getting older. You know, maybe people were starting to write him off a bit, thinking he might get knocked out here fighting a striker like Fialho. And instead, he comes in here, he eats some real big shots, and he fights a beautiful fight where he landed multiple different huge shots on Fialho. The knee in round 1, as an example, that he threw was friggin' gorgeous. And then, of course, the head kick late and a beautiful barrage afterward. Head shots, body shots, a knee. I mean, he had it all going in this fight. Great performance for Tim Means.
Yeah, man. Amen. Here we go. Muhammad Usman, UD over
Skip
Jake.
one.
Oh, my bad. Cody Brundage, round 1, DQ against Jacob Malkoon. Mark?
I mean, this one's on Jacob Malkoon, man. It sucks for him, but it's on him. It's your responsibility to be in control of your own weapons. He got warned a couple times that you could hear audibly on the broadcast, and then he just blasted Brundage in the back of the head with a forearm shot. So could Brundage have continued? Who knows? I hate to assume that, watching part of you was like, can't this guy get up? But who knows? Maybe he was friggin' dying. I don't know. So he has a right to say that he didn't feel right after that, and that's what he did. And Jacob Malkoon was absolutely owning him in that fight, too. So it's got to be even tougher for Malkoon to take the fact that he threw that away, but that's what he did. He threw it away.
Omar?
Yeah, I mean, he was wildly deliberate in that fight. I mean, he took so much time. I mean, he was like just putting it there, aiming it, waiting to just throw all the power he had into it. It was not an accident. It was measured, deliberate, and really a nasty strike all in all. I just it gives you shades of Peter Yan and Aljo, right? I mean, it's a new year. The Oscar has to go to the next person, right? And I'm not giving him shit the way that I don't like to give shit to Aljo either, because it's like we've said before, and I've said it repeatedly. Peter Yan fucked that one up the same way that Malkoon fucked this one up.
Yeah.
But you can't help wondering how much of that did we really milk? You know what I mean? Just how much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough because you don't know what they're like. As much as it looked like he was right, like for all you know, his vision was spinning around. Like back of the head shots are dangerous. Like you don't know.
100%.
I don't know. Who knows?
Okay, here we go. Muhammad Usman, UD over Jake Collier. Omar?
God damn, I want to care more about this fucking fight. I don't, man. I was watching this fight and just trying to find something to give a shit about, and I really couldn't. And Usman doesn't have anything that really entertains me, man. His striking is not particularly amazing. His wrestling at best is mids. Like, he's got this like crazy man strength that I think helps him in his wrestling. But from like a technique perspective, just look at his brother. Usman is all technique for the most part. Or I'm sorry, that was really confusing. Kamaru Usman is all technique compared to the way that Muhammad Usman approaches his grappling and his wrestling. And I know that heavyweights have to work a little bit different and all that kind of stuff, but I am not entertained.
Mark?
This was typical of a Jake Collier fight. Like while he's fresh, he does well, and he did well here. He hurt Usman a couple different times. He kept the pressure on him. But then his cardio kind of starts to fade as he gets, into the midway point of round 2. The output drops, and usually the next couple rounds don't go as well. And I do have to note that he toughed out a huge eye poke here that looked really bad. So maybe that played a hand in this fight changing as well, and not just the cardio. But either way, Usman really started to settle in and take over the fight. He won round 2 with his jab, pretty much. And then he won round 3 with his wrestling, got a huge takedown, and stayed on top. So that was enough for the W in this one. I agree. I don't think he's like setting the world on fire, but he is 3-0 in the UFC, and I'm not sure I even thought that was going to happen to start off. Now he's not fighting anyone so great. Granted, we're we're kind of at that point now where next fight he has to fight someone that sort of matters.
Yeah.
So we will see.
Okay. Mizuki Inoue defeats Hannah Goldie by UD. Mark?
Mizuki Inoue is a really solid fighter. She's been out for quite a while, like 3 years, I think it was, dealing with some different injuries, so maybe people forget. But she has a quality, well-rounded game, and I wasn't sure what Goldie would have to potentially trouble her with, and the answer was really not much. You know, Inoue dictated the fight. She won in every area. She won every round. So a nice return for her after a long time on the sidelines, and we'll see what we see from her when she's in there against a more quality opponent.
Omar?
I think this is a beautiful example of how much technique matters in a fight because, you know, the stronger fighter, visibly especially, was Hannah Goldie in that fight, by far. And Inoue was just able to really use her grappling skills, her technique, to really not let that matter all too much and kind of used Hannah Goldie's strength and weight against her in a lot of certain areas. So I thought it was a beautiful fight. I love seeing technique like that. And Mizuki, her movement also should be noted. I thought her movement looked really good in that fight as well. So great fight from her.
Also, why is she just Mizuki? Like, who does she just get to decide that she doesn't have a second name anymore? She's just a one-name person?
I guess. I mean, you got a bunch of people like that over there in the UFC. Why not her?
Who else?
Sumertaji. And that's it. That's all I have
No,
for you.
but
There's
that's
no last
his
name.
name. Like, I think there's actually a space in Sumertaji. Like, is it not? Isn't that like two names?
No, there didn't look like there's a space there for me.
Yeah, like on Sherdog, it's written as Sue as one thing and Muderji as the other thing.
Oh, well, UFC.
Like, she just straight up dropped Inoue. I don't know. Like, it was very weird when he was reading the decision. He's like, the winner is Mizuki.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Anyway, let's continue.
Nice.
Lightning.
Last one, Montserrat Rendon, split decision over Tamirez Vidal. Omar?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Vidal. I generally don't care for people who feel like they need to get like crazy angry to win a fight, especially when they're not doing that much to begin with. I thought Rendon did a great job keeping her cool, keeping her composure, picking her from the outside, landing some good strikes from the outside. I had her winning that fight. I'm not sure how you had Vidal winning that fight personally, but I thought Rendon did enough to win 2 out of 3.
Mark, take us home.
Yeah, this was billed as a striker versus a grappler, and for the most part, that's what it boiled down to. Vidal was mostly able to keep Rendon off her in round 1, and she outstruck her to get off to a nice start. But then in round 2, Rendon got a little more comfortable on the feet. She was able to close the distance at times, and then even more so in round 3. And she took those 2 rounds, and honestly, she stood up better in the striking than it seems like most people thought she would. So nice nice debut from her overall, as my voice is just quitting on me.
That's it. We did it. Let's put a bow on this one. Get your voice back because you need to tell our audience who has risen and who has fallen. Bryce Mitchell knows who's risen.
Nice.
Nice. Thank
Well
you.
done. I was waiting to see if somebody was going to do something, so I'm glad somebody did. Well done. Well done.
Man.
Mark, who rose and who fell in your rankings on the heels of this UFC fight night?
Not much to report this week. There were a lot of people who were the higher ranked fighter going in comparison to their opponent and won and kind of just maintained their spot for the most part or moved up, ever so slightly. So just 2 to report, and one of them isn't even that big, which is Muhammad Usman. He was my number 23 heavyweight. He is now my number 20 heavyweight, but I felt it was significant enough that he has hit the top 20 that I should include it here. So that's what I meant a minute ago when I was saying he kind of has to fight someone now. Like, he's past that Jake Collier realm, and now he's into, like, dudes who are kind of nipping at the outside of the rankings here. So we'll see who he gets next. And then the one other one is Charles Jourdain. He's a guy who's kind of been all around the rankings. He's had some, wins and losses to different level guys in his career. But he was number 31 in my featherweight rankings coming in, and he is now number 24. And that is it.
That's all. Wow. Okay. Omar, cue it up.
All right. So The Sphere this week, to be wholly honest, has two really big stories, and they're not even going to take very long. And then we've got all the fight announcements this week. They dropped everything all at once. So we've got quite a bit to get through. So let's jump right into it. Israel Adesanya has recently pleaded guilty in court in New Zealand to drunk driving on August 19th. Apparently, he was driving with 87 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. Apparently, the legal limit in his country is 50 milligrams. So your boy was lit in that car. So it looks like he's got that taken care of at this point. People giving him mad shit like he did coke or something. But I think it's, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Next on the list, Mark Hunt. His lawsuit against the UFC, Dana White, and Brock Lesnar is officially over and has come to a close. I didn't get the exact wording, but I do remember it was like basically the court said that Mark Hunt's wild accusations were so far from what could be proven through actual evidence, and they couldn't hold up against the contradictions from the other side, which, is a really legal way of saying Mark Hunt probably sounded batshit crazy in that courtroom, which if you love Mark Hunt, but he can be rough to get a point across. So I'm not super surprised that was the final feedback from the judge and the court. So that's all done.
I didn't think Mark Hunt, as much as I love the guy, was going to have much legal success against the entire UFC machine. It seemed pretty doomed from the beginning, and maybe he knew that, and he just wanted to, push it as far as he could push it. Who knows? But I don't think he was ever winning that one.
Yeah, same. Especially because he wasn't just going after the UFC; he was going after like UFC, Dana White, and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
specifically. So, all right, let's get into these fight announcements. We have a ton of them to get through. We will start right from the very beginning here. Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Lacerda has been rebooked for UFC Vegas UFC Vegas 81 on October 14th. For those of you who don't remember, that fight was the one that ended where the referee pulled them apart after thinking that one had passed out during a choke when he didn't. So we're fixing that. And there we go. Tabitha Ricci versus Lupi Godinez has been added to UFC 295 card on November 11th.
Here I am matching up Ricci. I didn't even know she just got put into a fight.
That's right. I do remember you saying that. I should have totally said something. Matt Frivola versus Benoit Saint-Denis has been added to UFC's 295 card on November 11th as well. Nazim Sadikov versus Vyacheslav Borishev also added to this November 11th card. And headlining this card, or co-headlining this card, is Yuri Prohaska versus Alex Pereira for the vacant light heavyweight title on November 11th.
What a fight.
What a card. It turned out a pretty decent card there.
Oh, yeah.
And again, for those of you who don't remember or may not have correlated that, the headline for that card, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Jones versus Stipe heavyweight championship fight.
You are correct, certainly.
Okay. All right, moving right along, we've got Jake Matthews versus Michael Morales. That fight has been added to UFC's Vegas 82 card on November 18th. We've got Uros Medic versus Johnny Parsons. That fight has also been added to the November 18th card. Joe Selecki versus Drakkar Klose has been added to December 2nd event, UFC's December 2nd main event. It does, or not main event, but it doesn't. Must be a UFC fight night of whatever fucking number. Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum has been added also to this December 2nd event. Misha Tate versus Julia Avila. Clay Guida versus Joaquim Silva. Jared Cannonier versus Roman Dolitz. Punalehi Soriano versus Dustin Stolfutz. Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. And Davidson Figueiredo versus Rob Font. All of those fights that you just heard have all been added to December 2nd's event. That is basically the main card and a little bit more. So, great card so far. Love all those names. The matchups, I think, are pretty interesting all the way around, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah. A ton of great ones.
I'm down. Speaking of your boy, Sumerderji versus Alan Nascimento has been added to UFC's December 9th event. Cody Durden versus Tagir Ulanbekov has been added to the 296 card on December 16th. Following that fight, we got Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Gary, also added to that card. Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett, the craziest little matchup we did not have on our bingo cards, also added to December 16th card. Stephen Thompson versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval 2 will be co-headlining UFC 296, and it will be headlined officially by Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Again, 296, December 16th.
If that 5-fight main card stays together, that will be arguably the most stacked main card we've seen in a minute.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it.
Edwards, Colby, Pantoja, Royval, Shavkat, Wonderboy, Ferguson, Pimblett, Luque, Gary. That's fucking nuts.
That's a great card. It's a great main card. And then our first official fight, it looks like, of 2024, we've got Andrei Arlovsky versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. That fight has been added to UFC's Vegas 83 card, and that will be happening after the new year on January 13th. And that is all we have this week.
wow.
So real quick, I'll just add before we get into our little couple previews for the one fight night card here. I just want to mention that there is a PFL Europe card happening this weekend. For those who don't know, PFL has a Europe series, which is fighters that you're not going to know as well as the usual PFL guys. There are some names that you'll recognize fighting on this card, like Laureano Starpoli, who has fought in the UFC in the past, couple others. But the reason I mention it is because the headliner of this card is the debut of Cedric Doumbé, who is, if you don't know, a world-class kickboxer. He is a 2-time champ over in Glory. At one time, he was considered the best kickboxer in the world at welterweight. His kickboxing record is 75-7-1. His MMA record thus far in his short career is 4-0 with 4 finishes. And he makes his debut in the PFL here. There was a time where he was supposed to debut in the UFC. He was actually scheduled to fight Darian Weeks, and it was on a Paris card, or I don't remember if it was Paris. It was in France. I think they've only done Paris, so it must have been Paris.
Yeah.
And the French commission had a rule where, because he had only had 4 fights, he could not fight Darian Weeks because there was more than a 10-fight difference in pro experience, even though obviously he had all this kickboxing experience. So they nixed it, and then shortly after the fight, some medical exam of Cedric Doumbé revealed that he had some bleeding happening in his brain, I believe it was, and at that point the UFC nixed the signing of him. But obviously he got that cleared up. Took a couple more fights. Apparently he was talking to the UFC again, but ended up getting what he said was a much, much, much bigger offer from the PFL. It seems like they're just throwing money around these days. So here he is. He makes his debut in the PFL. He's fighting another guy who's 4-0. His name is Jordan Zebo. He seems to have some grappling chops, so he may try to lean on that here. I wouldn't overlook him. He is only a plus 140 underdog. Cedric Doumbé is minus 185 as the favorite. But obviously the story here is Doumbé. The hope for the PFL is that he'll look fantastic and really burst onto the scene in MMA, that they could get their own version of like Izzy and Pereira that the UFC has hit on with guys coming over from kickboxing. So we will see, but definitely something to keep an eye on. I think that's like in the afternoon on Saturday since it's in Paris, so worth noting.
Nice.
Okay. Let's move on now to a little bit of previewing what day it is tomorrow.
That's right.
Right?
No, not tomorrow. Friday.
Tomorrow?
I'm thinking tomorrow's Friday, but tomorrow's not.
Because it's tomorrow now. Yeah, that's why I'm looking at the date on my computer.
Well, they do have an event tomorrow as well, I think.
What's tomorrow?
Because you know how one always does 2 events? Like they have one event first that's all straight Muay Thai. So that event is called One Friday Fights 35, which I think is on in our Thursday night, something like that.
And then
But then we're talking about One Fight Night 14, which is later.
Yes, I see it now. They're 12 hours apart.
There you go.
So, yeah, the Friday fights is going to be at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay.
for us on Friday.
Okay. There you go.
And then 12 hours later, one Fight Night 14, Stamp versus Ham on Prime.
Nice.
Here we go. Let's just quickly talk about 2 fights of this awesome one card. As I alluded to earlier in today's show, I personally love what one is doing with combat sports, just kind of throwing everything together and letting it just be a combat sports event overall. On this fight night, they're calling it a fight night? Yeah, one Fight Night 14. Yep. They have MMA, Muay Thai, and submission grappling all on the same card. I love this. This is so cool.
Yeah,
it's like a sampler platter.
I said it's a fun little card. You know, we're only doing 2 of these fights, the 2 that are like the bigger MMA fights, but another MMA fight that's on the card is Edward Folyang and Amir Khan. That should be a solid fight. I don't know the Muay Thai guys as well. Omar could speak on that, but if he does, but I do see there is a flyweight Muay Thai belt on the line in the women's division. There is a grappling belt on the line at 115 pounds featuring Danielle Kelly. And then Zhang Jingnan, who we've talked about multiple times on this show, who has fought Angela Lee a couple times, she's actually fighting a weird custom rules fight against Nat Jarunsak, which seems to just be boxing and MMA gloves where you can't kick or elbow or knee or anything. I'm not entirely sure, but that's on the card as well. So yeah, kind of as you said, it's definitely a sampler platter of some different things happening, and then of course the 2 big MMA fights that we're going to get to.
Yeah, man. Cool. Omar, any other fights you want to spotlight for this card?
Yeah, to be honest, there's a couple of Muay Thai guys on here, but I don't really know them very well, so I won't pretend to. But my rule of thumb is when they start adding their gym names to their names, they're probably fucking nasty. So I'm just going to go in that direction. Which I didn't apparently know that was a thing. I don't know if we've had this conversation on here before, but so that's why, like, Stamp Fairtex, for example, like she reps Fairtex.
Right.
So that's just her name. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as how she represents herself. So it's she's part of the gang now. You know what I mean? Not everybody, I think, gets to do that. So the one thing that, if you guys are into grappling at all, and one has some really fun grapplers. I know grappling, depending on where you're watching and who you're watching, can sometimes not be super exciting. But Mike Musumeci is a fantastic grappler. He's not on this card, but just as an example of the level of grappling they have. Fantastically visual grappler, really gets shit done, really aggressive. And Danielle Kelly, who is grappling on this card, she is the one that's fighting for the Atomweight Submission Grappling World Championship for one. She is a fantastic grappler, very, very aggressive, very dexterous in her body. She can bend and do all kinds of crazy shit, find angles while she's grappling that are really, really fun to watch. So if you are into combat sports in general and just like a good grappling match from time to time, that'd be the one I'd spend your time watching.
Okay. Let's turn our attention first to this first of 2 MMA bouts that we're going to talk about in the men's bantamweight division. John Lineker taking on Stephen Lohman. So Lineker, hands of stone, the 33-year-old out of Brazil, 36-10 as a pro, former UFC veteran, also won no contest on his record. Of his 36 wins, 22 have come by way of finish, 18 of those knockouts. He lost his chance for the vacant 1 bantamweight championship back in, remember, one's bantamweight is 145 pounds. This is back in February of this year. And then he won a catchweight bout, which was, I believe, supposed to be a featherweight bout, a 145-pound bout, because he missed weight by, I think, 6 pounds. He has been plagued by a little bit of weight cutting as of late. Okay, Stephen Lohman, the sniper, the 31-year-old out of the Philippines, 16-2 as a pro, has not lost a fight since 2016, 9 fights by decision. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Lohman versus Lineker.
So surprisingly, at least to me, John Lineker is the underdog. He is even money. So technically still an underdog. He's even money plus 100, and Stephen Lohman is minus 130 as the favorite. Lohman is 4 inches taller. He does have a 2-inch reach advantage. And despite the fact that some people may not know his name, he is a really quality fighter. The man is 16-2, as you said, in his career. The last loss, as you said, was 7-8 years ago. And since that time, he's won 11 fights in a row and is now coming off a win over Bibiano Fernandez. So he's certainly legit. He's a quality striker. He's absolutely going to be a tricky test for John Lineker. He is more multifaceted with his strikes, whereas John really relies on the boxing. He is probably more responsible defensively than John is, who kind of more relies on his head being able to eat shots. But I have always been and still am, despite the recent loss, a believer in the game of John Lineker against most guys. I know he struggled last time out, but the size difference was enormous there against Andrade. And I do think Andrade hits harder and is a little more precise than Lohman. So I acknowledge this could be tricky for Lineker, but I'm going to trust in the John Lineker special, which is just that at a couple points in the exchanges of this fight, he finds something huge, and after a few of them, Lohman is pretty hurt and falls down. So I'm going to say round 3 TKO for Lineker and hope that he can kind of stay at the top here over in 1.
Omar,
you're muted.
I fucked up. Okay. It's a good breakdown, especially when you consider kind of what John Lineker brings to the table. His hands, I think, are a great equalizer. He loves throwing them with, like, everything behind them. The real issue is he's got long looping shots. And against guys that are really tall, if they are good at striking, it's a really big tell. And it's something that I think a lot of guys could counter with not a lot of difficulty, to be honest. With that in mind, the one thing that I do love about Lineker is his work to the body. Lineker is one of those guys that you never have to tell or remind him to go to the body. It's part of his game. It's part of the norm. And I think that, for me, is generally what has him winning fights, especially close ones. The cardio, by the time the fight is kind of dwindling away, you could see the body shots generally tend to work in his favor. So I'm going to go with John Lineker here. I could see why maybe he's a little bit of an underdog here. But I'm going to go with Lineker here, and I'm going to go with a third-round TKO.
I will be the contrarian, guys. I'm going to take Stephen Lohman, the sniper. I think that his attributes are going to give Lineker some problems, and I think the decision machine that is Lohman is going to get another one by a unanimous decision over the always aggressive and willing to walk forward John Lineker. Okay, main event of this one Fight Night 14 MMA going down at what weight? Women's.
So it's atom weight, but that's
women's atom weight
115 over there because of the rehydration.
We have Stan Fairtex, the great Stan Fairtex, taking on Seo Hee Ham. I hope I'm not butchering that too bad. Yep. Here we go. Ham is the 36-year-old out of Busan, South Korea, 26-8. How can we never have fighters out of North Korea, guys? Sorry, I had to. Dude, I just got this book about like life of citizens in North Korea. I can't wait to read it.
Really? Wow, that's got to be interesting.
Holy shit, you buy more new books and you put them in that shelf? I thought you were done. I thought that was it. I thought those were the books.
What?
Like, I thought what you had on there, it sounded like you had just bought a new... It sounded like you had recently just bought a new book to add to the shelf when I felt like that shelf was full. Oh, that's fucking crazy.
Where do you think he puts new books that he buys?
I didn't think he bought new books. That was, I guess, my point.
Right here?
He just stopped reading?
I just thought he was good.
I'm done.
I thought he was good. I thought the collection he had, I thought was good.
At the age of 37, I've read all the books I'm ever going to read.
Yeah.
Mike, have you read every book that's on that shelf behind you?
Of course not.
Oh, really? See, I have a similar thing in my house, but I've read them all. Like, I only like buy new books once I finish reading the book that I'm on.
Oh, that's a good rule that you have. I don't have that rule for myself. I love.
Oh, you're just
for the most part. I'll have like 3 or 4 waiting in the queue, kind of.
Sure.
Oh, we're gonna see Mike on Netflix in like 30 years.
No.
Fucking a hoarded out basement full of books that he's never read.
To me, it's not about hoarding. It's about like curating. To me, and I always bring books back that I finish.
Yeah, no, you're gonna curate the whole basement. I get it. I
donate them to
it.
a bookstore.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
If I'm
that
like,
makes
I don't
you
need
not
this
a
book
hoarder.
anymore.
I only do that if I didn't like the book. If I liked it, it will sit on my shelf for me to look at forever and possibly reread one day.
Pretty much the same. If I'm like, I don't need this book anymore. But if it's like a book that's like a seminal book, I'm like, I want to hold on to this forever.
Yeah. And then some books have to be displayed on a podcast at all times.
Yes. Okay, let me go back to talking about fucking Korea. This started with
that was your fault.
Taking a jab at North Korea. Okay. Ham is 36 years old, out of South Korea, 26-8. With out of the 26 wins, 19 have gone to the scorecards. She has not lost a fight since 2016, which means that she's on a 9-fight win streak coming into this weekend. The great Sam Fairtex, what a star. 25 years old, out of Thailand, 10-2 as a pro in MMA. She has started her MMA career, I believe, in 2018. She's riding back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. And of her 10 wins, 6 have been finishes, 4 of those knockouts. Most recently, knocking out Elise Anderson with a nasty body kick back in May of this year. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Fairtex versus Ham.
I'm a big fan of Stan Fairtex. I love her striking. Her Muay Thai is crisp. I love the way that she throws her elbows. I love the timing in which she throws her elbows. Her knees are really dangerous. And, Stamp, I think, is generally in the most danger when she's really at risk of being taken down and controlled on the ground. And that, I do not believe, is Ham Suhi's game. I believe she's going to want to strike with her. I believe a lot of the time, Ham Suhi is usually trying to keep people off of her and trying to defend takedowns herself. So I think this is going to be a standing fight. And in a standing fight, I'm going with Stan Fairtex all day. Give me Stan Fairtex, round 3, TKO.
Mark.
So Stamp's favorite, she's minus 185. Ham is plus 155 as the dog. This one, I don't know if we said this. This is for the interim atomweight championship. Obviously, the champion here is Angela Lee. And despite teasing retirement, she has not yet vacated her title. So this is still for an interim belt. We'll see if she ever comes back to unify these belts or if she just decides to relinquish. But we get a good matchup here. These girls are the same height. Stamp has a 1-inch reach advantage. And it's a really interesting contrast to me because on the one hand, you have Stamp, who, of course, was a kickboxing champion and a Muay Thai champion, but she's still relatively new to MMA. And then on the other hand, you have Ham Seo Hee, who is a 34-fight MMA veteran whose career began in 2007. She fought Megumi Fuji. That's how long she has been around. She spent time in the UFC. Granted, when she was in the UFC, she was fighting about 20 pounds higher up than she ever should have been, so she was 1-3 in that run, but fighting much bigger girls. And despite the fact that she's 36 years old and 34 fights in, she's won 9 fights in a row and finished 4 of those 9. So she's looking good right now. She could easily spoil this party that I'm sure one is hoping to have for Stam Fairtex here because, as Mike said, she has a lot of star potential, and I'm sure they see that. But Ham is really good and really well-rounded. She can wrestle. She has a strong top game if she can get on top. She's an action fighter who will blitz you. It's just a really well-rounded game that she brings to the table, and the question is just going to be whether Stamp can handle that. But in the end, I do love Stamp. I've been a believer in Stamp, and I think the fact that Ham is willing to scrap and willing to exchange is something that can get her clipped here because Stamp is so slick. Plus, as we always say, her grappling is getting better and better each time. I do think she can probably resist. It's not as if Ham is some overwhelming grappler. If she does end up on top, it could get tricky for Stamp, but I think she can resist most situations. And on the feet, I just think she's so slick and that she'll be the much quicker fighter. And I think as the fight goes on, she can find a shot. So I'm not even sure if I think she'll be winning, but I think she'll be finishing. And I'm also going to say Stamp Fairtex, round 3 TKO.
Oh, baby. Guys, I'm a Stamp Fairtex believer. This is a Stamp Fairtex podcast right here. We are unanimous, of course. She's my girl. She just doesn't know it yet. I hope I get to announce her one day. How fucking cool would that be?
That'd be sick.
Yeah, I mean, the odds are pretty close. They're closer than I thought they would be. But Ham is legit. Give me Stamp by decision. I'll be more of the layup pick here. And that does it. That does it for this show. Let's end with a little bit of trivia. You guys ready? Cool. Anything else you want to say about Stamp or one or anything?
No. Good to go. Let's hear this trivia.
Okay, on the heels of my first event in Vegas, here's a little bit of Vegas trivia. Not trivia about the city of Las Vegas, I mean. Here we go. Okay, number of UFC events in Las Vegas.
All time?
Now we're going to go.
Ever?
We're going to go Price is Right style. Closest without going over.
What the fuck?
Come on.
Oh, we don't get multiple. We get nothing. Oh, shit. Yeah. I wasn't listening to you. Price is Right style. Holy shit. So, number of UFC events all
in
time
the state of Nevada.
in Vegas?
In the state of Nevada.
All time.
All time. Since 1990, whatever.
Fucking hell.
Come on, bro. Closest without going over.
I'm gonna do some fucking math. Jesus Christ.
So, including the Apex.
Yeah. Not just pay-per-views. I searched for Nevada.
It's got 1 million.
Omar, don't be a hater.
I'm not being here. I'm trying to figure this shit out. I'm trying to do math.
Now you gotta observe the rules here. Closest
What are the
without
rules?
going over.
Oh,
578.
I'll say 400.
Guys, you both went over
Wow, really?
by a lot. I believe the answer is 116.
How is that possible?
What? How could that be right?
They've done a lot more events outside of Vegas than you might think then.
The answer all inclusive is 116?
Bro, let me tell you my process. I went to the Wikipedia page that was a list of every single UFC event ever, and I Command F'd Nevada. So it can't be wrong.
Holy shit. Wow, we fucked that one up. Bad.
I mean, think about it. The UFC does go all over.
I mean, yes.
I guess so. I think we're fucked by pandemic and post-pandemic years that we're living in, and I think it tricked our brain into thinking they're in Vegas so much because they have been lately.
The Apex, yeah.
And made us forget how really all over they were in the prior years.
That's a great
Because,
point.
wow, we really fucked that one up.
I mean, you're right. Like, since the Apex especially, like, they've been in at the Apex or in Vegas basically at least once a month.
Yeah, because in my head, I was like 50% of fight nights have been in Vegas, which is why my number was so high.
Oh, no,
But-
I'm wrong. I fucked up. Guys, I fucked up.
No way you say.
It's more than that. It's more.
No shit.
It's a lot more. It's a lot. I told you my process, but it turns out my process was
Your
bad.
process may have been a little flawed, let's say.
I do still think I'm high as I talk this
I
out
still
now.
do too.
But what is the fucking answer, Mike?
I don't know. I don't know.
Can't take you anywhere.
I tried to
Because
figure out I tried to figure out all the because we're at 290. We did 293, right? We did. How many fucking fight nights are there at this point? Like another 200 and some odd 30 of them or something. And I figured you got to take. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Here, I found it. I found the number.
What's the number?
Did you
Go
though?
on. You both were still over by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's.
I'm
What were your
realizing
guesses? What were your guesses?
Mine was
400
five
and
something.
five
What did I say? 570 something.
Omar?
Yeah, I'm realizing I'm
400.
over. I would. Yeah. Whatever. I'm not.
There
gonna
have been a total of 468 events.
Okay.
Total.
Okay.
Oh, boo!
Okay, events. Oh, this is nice. It breaks it all down. Events in Las Vegas.
Wait, what? There hasn't. In
What?
total, the UFC has had 665 events.
664.
I'm seeing 665, but okay.
But okay. According to this, 221 events in Las Vegas. And this gives me a little breakdown of the different venues in Vegas, which is fucking cool. The Apex has already doubled the next closest one, which is the MGM Grand.
That's crazy. That still
Wait, so
seems
how many
super
were in
low.
Vegas? Did you say?
Yeah, 221.
221.
221 in Vegas.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at this list now.
86 at the Apex, 43 at the MGM Grand, 30 at Mandalay Bay, 26 at T-Mobile. I would have thought there would be more at T-Mobile. They've done, wow, this is very cool. They've done one at the Hard Rock. That's where I just was. No, I mean, I was at the Theater Virgin Hotels.
I remember the Hard Rock one actually. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I fucked this up for multiple reasons. I fucked it up because A, like I said, like I was thinking more of the fight nights were in Vegas, but I think it's because post-pandemic years are fucking with me. And that,
Sure.
but B, I was thinking so many more of the earlier pay-per-views were in Vegas, and they weren't. They were like all over the fucking map. And now that I see it, I remember it because I can remember, like in the pandemic when I went back and watched all those pay-per-views, them being like, "Here we are in fucking Cedar Rapids, Iowa." Like,
Yep.
I forgot about all these bullshit. I was just in my head. I was like, "Oh, they must have been in Vegas in the beginning." But yeah, that was
Yeah.
shitty guess.
No, this is perfect. that I
Birmingham,
found this. I'm so
Alabama.
glad I found this.
Well done.
Oh, I could generate a few more trivia questions out of this list. This is cool. I can give you guys Mexico City. Closest without going over. How many trips have they done to Mexico City? Go.
1, 2,
4.
Mark wins. The answer is 5.
I wanted to say 5, but I was afraid it was going to be over 4, so that's why I said 4.
Okay, this one I'm more confident in. This is the last question here. How many events did the UFC do before their first event in Las Vegas?
Ooh.
Price is Right rules. Closest without going over. Thank you. Please and thank you.
17.
7.
Okay, let's look here. Let's look, guys. You know, it's a hard job being the quiz master sometimes. Mark wins again. The answer is 36.
Oh, shit.
That's a lot.
Their first event in Las Vegas was UFC 33 Victory in Vegas on September 28th, 2001. Wow, they did an event fucking 2 weeks after 9/11?
Yikes. That
I don't
sounds
pay-
about right, though.
I don't pay enough. I mean, sports had started by that time again.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't pay enough attention to where things take place. I really don't.
That's okay. I bet you guys know this one. Where were the first 2 UFC events? What city? Go.
I actually don't know.
You know this.
I don't.
Mark knows this.
I don't know where they were. That's why when you said it, I was completely
I don't.
baffled.
Oh, really? I feel like I've known this forever.
No.
Let me think.
never
let me
really
think.
thought about the
Where
venue,
was
to be
UFC
honest.
1 at? I'm watching UFC 1 in my brain.
Oh, I could see the shitty stage and everything
Where
else. I
are
just can't
they
think of the
saying
city.
that they are?
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't watch it like that. I can tell you what, Googling is going to be faster than whatever the fuck is going on over there.
I mean, Googling is also cheating.
Oh, I already know. I don't know.
Fuck, man. I don't think I'm gonna get it.
Are you serious? Wow.
I can't think of where they were.
Denver.
I wanted. What'd you say?
Denver.
Oh, Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even knowing,
that
I
doesn't
don't think
even
I
ring
knew
a
that.
bell.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to where shit is. Even other sports. Like people ask me questions like that sometimes of like who was the home team in that game? And I'm like, I have no fucking clue. I don't even remember. I just remember the game. Like,
For me, it depends, especially if I've been there. Like, I tend to obviously remember the venues a little bit more, but yeah, I'm not usually paying attention to the venues like that.
Interesting. All right. Well, guys, it's late.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
let's
Let's call it. Fun one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. Enjoy the action this weekend with PFL Europe, as well as both of those one events, one Friday fights and one Fight Night 14. Let's go Stamp. Any parting words for our viewers and listeners, guys?
Let's go Stamp.
Yeah, let's go Stamp.
All right.
That's
well,
it.
We will check in with you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Peace.
Peace.